we'll have to deal with that later. But for right now, uh, we're ready to go.
All right.
Go. So three, two, and one. Sorry. My apologies. That's why you do a
No
countdown,
worries.
Jim.
No worries.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to empower you to live your best audacious life ever. Coming to you live from the stunning shores of Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. I'm thrilled to have you join us today. And now, just as the crystal clear waters and vibrant coral reefs of this beautiful island remind us of nature's simpler wonders, we are here to explore the foundational habits that can transform your health and well-being. It's always a pleasure to share this space with you, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here with us, investing in your personal growth. Today's episode revolves around the importance of starting your health journey from a realistic standpoint. Now, imagine trying to swim in the ocean without first learning how to float. It's a recipe for struggle. Just like that, embarking on a health journey without foundational habits can lead to burnout and frustration. Instead, we advocate for simple, achievable steps that can lead to lasting change. We'll also delve into the vital role that social connections play in our overall wellness. Just like the vibrant community here in the Cayman Islands, having a supportive and social network can significantly boost your health and motivation. Our guest today is Jim Laird. He's a renowned health and wellness expert, as well as a coach with over 20 years of experience in transforming lives. He's worked with a diverse range of clients, from athletes to everyday individuals, and has developed a reputation for his holistic approach to well-being. Jim's insights into the dangers of overtraining and the necessity of balancing effort with recovery resonate deeply in today's fast-paced world. So now that we got you all set, let's turn our conversation over to Jim. Enjoy. Hey, Jim, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here. Thank you so much for doing so. It's great to connect with you, my friend.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I take pleasure in the opportunity to be able to engage in dialogues that can help individuals, make change in their lives for the better. And it's just it's actually a blessing, if you ask me, quite frankly, Jim. Because I mean, we're
Sure.
I think of this for a second. Like, you and I will be sitting here in a conversation, and let's pretend just you and I here, and someone's eavesdropping, right? And by virtue of them, it's sticking their ear in what we're saying, they're like, "Oh, wait a second, that's a good idea," and off they go, and they better their life for a profound difference. Like, how do you not feel good about that? I mean, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. By no means, I've focused most of my career was focused on working with people in person.
Yeah,
I've only recently in the last few years done more virtual stuff, but
yeah.
there isn't a day go by where I get an email from a former client or some kid I trained in high school, or somebody that listened to a podcast I did, 8 or 10 years ago, that said, "Hey, you said something that resonated with me." So it's really neat to be able to affect people in that way.
Yeah. And again, for a guy who is doing this because, from my perspective, it's a personal mission, and it's a blessing. It really, really is, hands down. That's how I consider it.
Sure.
It's a privilege. So on that note, I got to say thank you for helping me sort of achieve my personal mission
You're
there,
welcome.
because I couldn't do this without you, Jim. So maybe
Thank
as
you.
a starting point, and give you an opportunity to sort of talk about the work that you do. I know you're a health and fitness wellness coach.
Yep.
Personal health and well-being is a key focus. But perhaps you can elaborate further to give our audience an idea of who you are, what you do, and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
That's a really good question. How much time do you got? I mean, I started out as an athlete, and I wanted to become the best athlete possible. I used sports, particularly things like football, MMA, wrestling, to kind of manage, I guess you'd call it, some trauma from childhood, you might say,
Okay.
which over time didn't end well for me. We can go into that later. I had to make some adjustments to my strategies for dealing with that later on down the road, but it kept me from going to jail originally. So it gave me an outlet for the anger and resentment
Sure.
and bitterness that I was carrying around. So I started coaching people. I originally was going to be an elementary school teacher. I really liked teaching. I always have liked teaching. But once I got into these Department of once I got into college and started learning about the education system, and I kind of learned that it's just this, just wanting to make people obedient idiots, essentially. I'm being a little dramatic, but yes, it's just basically designed for people to show up and go to work. Doesn't really encourage independent thought or any kind of entrepreneurial kind of just they want people to just show up and pay their taxes, essentially.
Right.
And that didn't really inspire me. I noticed that, as somebody who wanted to be an elementary school teacher, the way they had the system set up was completely the opposite of the way children learn. Children learn through play, they learn through games, they learn through interaction. They learn from example. That's why children do so well when their parents read to them and spend time with them. And I was like, I can't really have anything to do with this. And then I realized, wow, I can become a strength and conditioning coach. I can work with athletes in person and still be a teacher and make a lot more money than I would teaching. And then I also wouldn't get in trouble. I tried to teach, and the way I wanted to do it didn't really go along with the way the state wanted to do it, so to speak. So I started doing that, and then basically started working with normal folks too, and women in particular, and then men. And I had a coaching practice in Lexington, and I worked with people for over 20 years. And because of some of my own health challenges with autoimmune disease and some other issues, I became really good at like helping people with the lifestyle side of their health. And I would have doctors refer people to me, people with injuries and health issues, because I would get into the nutrition side of it and the lifestyle part of it. So over the years, I really just kind of built up this reputation of helping people get themselves into a better place, not just by beating the crap out of them with exercise.
Right.
And then I decided to move to Florida. I left Kentucky after 20 years. And then I decided to work with a guy named Dr. Leland Stillman for the last 3 years. I've been helping him bring coaching into his medical practice. And we started a coaching practice as well. So, the thing he noticed is in his medical practice is that he would check in with patients every couple months, but there's no follow-up. There was no lifestyle coaching. There was no lifestyle change. And once we brought lifestyle coaching into the medical practice, his results just skyrocketed. So I'm done doing that now, and now I'm kind of off doing my own thing now. But that's basically how I got into what I'm doing. And only the last few years I've worked virtually. Before that, most of my work was in person.
Right.
So now I'm doing all my work is virtual because I live in Nicaragua.
Oh, so thank you for sharing your journey. I appreciate you condensed the time, because I'm sure you could have gone in great lengths and great detail
Oh,
about your personal journey. And
sure.
I've often found that it's that backstory is what really fuels people and their work. And when you look at what where their passion lies, it
Mhm.
oftentimes there's a personal connection to why they're doing, which makes their work that much more significant. And so I do
Sure.
appreciate that. I don't take anything for granted that you shared with me. Um, and also sort of appreciate the transition, right? I want to be a teacher. No, this is where I need to go. And sometimes it's that calling, right, Jim, where it's like, hey, you know what? This is kind of where I'm being led to, or I'm being called to, or being pulled to, whatever,
Right.
whichever action word you choose to insert there. At the end of the day, it is about the difference that can be made in lives of people. So what I'm curious about is, at what point did you sort of focus on that difference piece for you? When did that become like sort of central to the work that you do?
Really, I mean, that comes a lot from my upbringing. I was raised in a very rural area, rural community. My grandparents played a big role in my early development. And I was taught, no matter what you're doing, if you're a garbage collector or you're picking up trash, or you be the best version of it possible. So it really started as soon as possible. I always just have tried to treat others. Many times it's gotten me in trouble, but I've always tried to treat others the way I would want to be treated. So from the beginning, even, to this day, I always look at situations like, how would I want to be treated in this situation? And, sometimes that means having a strict boundary and having someone say no. And then other times it means, giving someone a hand up, so to speak. It kind of depends, but really every interaction I've ever, as long as I can remember, whether it's bagging groceries or, checking IDs at a nightclub or doing whatever, I always was looking for opportunities to impact other people. That's just kind of my mindset and how it's always been.
Mhm. And then and I do like the way you carry that as well too. It's that sort of way, because it sounds like it's a core value, right? So it's important to you, and you carry that through, and it's sort of permanent. And what happens is, because it's important to you, it sort of permeates through all that you do, all that you're doing. It's not like you naturally think, "Oh, I'm here to make a difference. I'm gonna get to go to work to make a difference." Per se, that might be part of the thought process, but
Right.
it's just naturally what you do, and that's what I'm hearing
Right.
loud and clear. Okay, so in terms of, and I know it's going to be a wide cross section in terms of potential responses, but I'm curious to some of the biggest challenges that you've encountered that prevented people from reaching their health and fitness goals.
I'd say people not starting where they are. That's probably the number one. I get people that are like literally doing all sorts of fancy programs. They're doing peptides, they're doing hormone replacement, they're doing everything but the kitchen sink. But they're starting at a level that's way above them, and it's way above their body's ability to adapt. So a lot of times what I have to do is I have to back them up and start them off with less. I see that a lot. Um, Consistency, compliance. I'll tell people like, you need to walk outside 3 times a day, for 10 minutes. Oh, I know that. I need to eat more protein. I know that. You need to drink more water. I know that. And then it's like, okay, you know all these things.
Why am I here?
Are you actually doing them? Well,
Right.
no, it's too inconvenient. So that's compliance. And then a lot of people just they either don't do enough which I honestly don't attract those people. I attract the kind of person that, like, I give you an axe, I put you in the woods, and I say I need 2 trees cut down. I come back 4 hours later and all the trees are cut down. Like, that's the kind of person I attract, generally
Mm.
speaking.
Overachiever.
Sometimes, yeah, overachiever. Sometimes I attract the other kind, the people that aren't as motivated, but I tend to find those are easier to work with because they will never overdo it. Where the overachiever will burn the house down and be like, how did that happen? Right? Whereas you don't have to worry about the person that's a little more laid back burning the house down, you know.
So here's
Uh,
what I'm interested when you look at those two in the car, because they're very two polar opposites for sure, no doubt about that.
yeah,
The strategies are not going to be the same. How do you
correct.
balance to get them in the middle there?
Yeah, so with the under motivated, I usually give them 1 or 2 things. I say, what are the 2 things that you can do for sure? Can you get outside 3 times a day? Yes. Can you add a protein to at least one of your meals? Yes. Okay, that's all you're going to do for the next 3 weeks. Then we're going to talk about it. And I check in on them. And they go, wow, I've gotten outside 3 times for 2 weeks. I feel way better. It wasn't that hard. I'm eating a protein. I'm feeling better. It wasn't that bad. What should I do now? On the opposite side of that, you get the person who hurt their back, doing XYZ workout, and you get them feeling better. You start them on a program. You say, go 2 times through this. Okay. And then they come back and go, well, I hurt my shoulder because I went twice through and I felt so good that I went 6 times through and I tripled the weight. And it's like, okay, we implement rules like you stop when you feel good. That's usually it. And then I use the aura ring, which is something I use for myself because I'm one of those, the reason I'm so good at working with people that are overdoers is because I'm that way too. Like I have to crash my car at 90 before I actually learn, you know? So we start using the aura ring to see what your data actually says, because people that are overachievers generally, they're sleep deprived, they're exhausted, it don't matter, we'll push through, right? So those people, it's like, okay, you're going to stop with a quarter in the tank, and then it's like, okay, time, after you go 2 times through, you're going to message me on WhatsApp. You're going to say, hey, I've gone twice through. I feel amazing. I want to do one more. Or should I stop? And I'll say, you can do one more and then you're done. There's a lot of people that are overachievers. They get addicted to that kind of exercise high, right? And then that's the only time they really feel good, because a lot of them are so exhausted that adrenaline rush is the only, and it happens with relationships too, because those people that are completely smoked because they say they went to law school, they're trying to be a partner in a law firm, they're working a lot of hours, plus they have a family and they're training hard. The only time they feel good is when there's something happening, because they've got this big drop of adrenaline, and over time they have to get more and more stuff going to give them that same feel. And we have to do with them is like, okay, you don't know how to relax. It's kind of like driving on the Autobahn all day, doing 160, 170 kilometers an hour, or 110, 120 miles an hour. And then you're required to pull off the Autobahn and go into a school zone where you're doing like 15 miles an hour. And it feels horrible. So a lot of these people that are workaholics, that are overachievers, they just do not feel comfortable relaxing. So we have to, and I was the same way. Like when I ended up with ulcerative colitis in like 08 or 09. And it was from just working too much, not sleeping enough, being stupid, doing a lot of dumb things. And I remember when I started reading about stress and that component of it with autoimmune, particularly digestive issues. And it was like, you've got to learn how to relax. And literally, I couldn't sit still. Like I'd be popping my foot up and down, and, I'd be going, and it literally took me like a year to learn how to sit quietly for a minute. So I empathize with a lot of the people that are the overachievers, hard chargers, because they have to learn how to shut it off, be still and know. And I'm all for hard work. It's just that the harder you work, the harder you got to shut it off. Just like I just took my motorcycle to the shop. I take my motorcycle to the shop a lot because I drive it really hard, right? If I'm just putting down the highway at 25 miles an hour, I don't need to take my motorcycle to the shop that much. But if I'm thrashing down the road and going off road and driving up and down mud hills and stuff, I'm going to have to do more maintenance on it. So getting people that are driving their body hard to understand that you have to work in so you can work out is something that a lot of people have a really hard time understanding.
The I guess your philosophy of training smarter, not harder, is that kind of the basis?
I mean, that really, it's kind of like, you could run into the door multiple times with your head and try and open it, or you could just use the doorknob and open the door. There's a lot of people in their training.
Stop being the doorknob and use the doorknob, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people in their training that are doing stuff that's really hard, but it isn't really giving them. I would just be like a marathon, like women in particular that run marathons to lose body fat. Running a marathon to lose body fat or change body composition is horrible. It doesn't work really well. One, your appetite just goes through the ceiling. Two, the more you run, the better you get at it, the less calories you burn. So you've got people that are putting all these miles in, and I'm all for it. If they really love running marathons, God bless you. If you love running in a straight line for hours on end, knock yourself out. Great.
Sometimes it curves, right?
Yeah, don't do it to drop body fat. It's one of the worst ways to do that. So I've worked with so many women over the years that literally were running and running with the whole goal was to change their body composition. And then it's like, okay, we lift weights a couple times a week. We change your diet a little bit. You get more sleep. All of a sudden, wow, my body feels better. It looks better. It's it's kind of like, it's kind of like trying to, put a nail in with a screwdriver. I mean, it just like, you got to have the right tool for the job.
Right. And that recognition, or at least realization of the tool, is probably the biggest thing people can do for themselves in terms of a favor, and get themselves on the right foot too.
Yeah, and well, the other thing I see too is people trying to build their foundation of health on tools.
Okay.
Like peptides are a tool, supplements are a tool, HRT is a tool. Your foundations, we have something called the 5 fundamental habits, which is walk outside 3 times a day for 10 minutes, preferably after meals. This is, nice, relaxing, helps with digestion, gets your circadian rhythm in order. I think your circadian rhythm is basically the foundation of your health.
Okay.
Eat a protein at every meal, preferably a fistful. Drink high quality water, preferably spring water. Get the lights off at night, and then have some sort of community, some sort of social connection. Those 5 things are the foundation of health. Like if you're doing all those 5 things, you're going to have a really good opportunity, like a good chance that you're going to be in a good place.
Gotcha.
What happens is people are sleep deprived. They don't feel good. They're not eating enough. They're eating a lot of processed food. They're working too many hours. And then they're like, well, here's this peptide I can take for energy. Great. Well, it allows them to have more energy, but they get more energy. So they just keep pushing harder. And then eventually down the road, because what happens is if you're pushing your body really hard, you're not taking care of yourself. The body will basically try and slow you down.
Sure.
And then you override that, and then you end up crashing your car at 90 instead of 30. And here's the funny thing. It's interesting that I've learned from my data. I've got 8 years of Oura Ring data.
Okay.
Like 4 or 5 years ago, when I was training people in person in Kentucky, and I was working with 6 to 10 people an hour, I was doing 4 to 6 sessions a day. My perceived level of stress was very low. Okay. Even though I was very physically active, I was moving around a lot. Now I work, now I do 4 to 6 sessions a day. I'll do podcasts, or I'll do group coaching, or I do individual coaching. My perceived stress level's off the roof. Even though I'm out here, I'm not really doing much. I go for little walks in between to kind of mitigate the fact that I'm in front of a screen. But for me, being in front of the computer, even outdoors, because that's one of the reasons I wanted to live a more outdoor life.
Yeah.
Is a much higher stress on my body because I'm not moving around. The human body loves movement. It loves movement. It loves moving at low levels, not high intensity stuff. Like that's fine from time to time, but moving around constantly. That's why people that live over 100 tend to do things like gardening. They tend to have hobbies. They tend to walk a lot.
Gotcha.
So our bodies are designed to move constantly. And so when I was working in a gym, I was moving around a lot, and the amount of focus changed. When I'm on here with you, obviously I have to be very animated. I talk a lot, and you probably know this too. When you do 4 or 5 calls in a day, talking is mouth breathing, which is essentially a lot harder on your system. That's why like teachers, hairdressers, people like that are exhausted because all they do is all day is talk, right? And that wears you out. So people don't understand that our modern life is way more stressful on our biology than what it would be if we were just doing manual labor outside, if we were gathering things and building things and stuff like that. So, I've learned a lot in the last couple of years about myself, and it's very interesting. So the people that sit in an office all day that think that, oh, I don't really do anything that hard, just being in that office is really hard on you physically.
Right.
You'd be better off working as at first you would kick your ass, but working like as a yard maintenance guy, like a gardening or,
Gotcha.
Doing something where you're active all day. Our physiology likes that a lot better than sitting and staring at a screen for 8 hours.
No, I hear you. And that's something. And so, when we talk about those 5 things as the example, and getting out for a walk after a meal, even 10 minutes a day, kind of a thing. I think those
Yeah,
are the little things that we can introduce into, and I'm going to say into our lifestyle. Not just, I don't like the idea of just doing it, like go out and walk.
yeah,
No, no, no. Introduce it as part of your lifestyle, so it becomes what
right,
you
right.
do, right? I think
Well,
that's how.
it becomes like brushing your teeth. You just
Yeah,
do it.
you don't
You
think
don't
about it.
think about it. It just
Yeah,
happens. Like, yeah. So that's generally what I try to do. I try to get people, and a lot of people are like, well, that's just, that's silly. That's not even that big a deal. And then they actually start doing it. They're like, wow, that made a really big difference. And a lot of people just don't understand how much psychological stress modern life places on us.
sure.
And because of the phones, because of modern technology, we're never bored anymore. We never sit in silence. So really getting people to, because I want people to work hard. I want them to train hard. But the problem is most people have no problem pushing. They take caffeine, they take energy drinks, they do all that stuff. Um, they have a problem shutting it off. And then the people that are unmotivated, they don't have a foundation, and then they start too hard, and then they get burned out or injured. So the people that are unmotivated need like low level activity. They need walking and a little bit of daily movement to build capacity so they can handle intensity. Because what will happen is somebody who's unmotivated will be like get frustrated and they'll be like, "Man, I'm overweight. I need to go to the gym." And then they go to the gym, and the coach puts them through like a half an hour of like Navy SEAL boot camp, and then they can't walk for like 4 weeks, and they're just like, this sucks. Like, whereas they really should just move around a little bit, do a couple warm up things and talk about nutrition and things like that. And then the next time they come in, do 10 minutes more and start slow, where, a lot of these coaches will try and make an example of these new people. And some people love that. Some people love being tortured, but most of them, they never go back.
No.
Um,
I'm not on
and
that
then,
list, by the way. I'm not
yeah,
down
I mean, but some people are. I've had people say, "Well, I need to feel sore," and I'm like, "It's not about sore. It's about getting better." I
Sure.
mean, I can make you sore, like I could beat you with a baseball bat. That's going to make you real sore, but it's not necessarily going to make you better.
No.
So that's generally a lot of the things that I see with people, and then people not taking, uh, you know, the average American has become what I call a zoo animal. Um, and they literally just live 98% of their life indoors.
Okay.
And so they don't understand the importance of the sun, particularly for darker skinned individuals.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you
Yeah.
need more sun than I do. There's a reason why you're
Yeah.
dark. It's because you evolved in an area where there's more sun, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things I've seen of things that are just like blatantly obvious, but people are always like, well, why do African people of African descent struggle in Chicago and New York and in Canada and places like that? I'm like,
Sunlight.
well, it might be because there's no sun there. It might just be that, it's kind of like a cactus trying to live in the Arctic, right? Or a polar bear trying to live
Sure.
on the equator.
That's right.
And I think that's really criminal that they've demonized the sun the way they have. I mean, they make it sound like the sun is your worst enemy, that you're going to explode and get instant cancer if you're out in the sun for too long. Where I think the opposite is the truth. I think, you're liable to have a lot more health issues if you avoid the sun. Um, that's just my opinion.
No, no, no. I hear you. Sun is. I'm a big fan of the sun myself, so I hear you loud and clear. Why men over 40?
Well, I really relate well to men over
I
40
was gonna
because I'm
say.
50.
I
Um,
was gonna say, did you have a personal connection, baby?
Yeah, well, for me being here, like the reason I decided, and I've worked with people of all ages. I'm also releasing a women's group here too. There was a lot of
Yeah.
like people were like, what about the women too? So I'm going to be having a women's group here, but I do have a men's coaching program right now that's specifically group coaching that's particularly centered towards men. It's just easier for me to make content for men on social media than it is for women because a lot of the exercises, because I'm this big powerlifting kind of guy, it's a
Yep.
little hard to do a lot of the, demo a lot of stuff. So it was a little easier, but I work with just about everyone, but I'm going to have basically a women's coaching group and a men's coaching group. And so equal opportunity, but I like working with men as well. I really love my favorite thing about my job
Mhm.
is that everybody's an N of one. you know. Some people, you cut their workout back a little bit, you change it, you go from like, let's do a little less conditioning, let's do a little more power work, and boom, that's all they need. Another person's like, okay, let's get the lights off at night, let's get you doing a float tank once a week, and let's really focus on, doing a couple breathing drills before bed, and that works amazing. And then it works for 4 or 5 weeks, then we have to change to something else. Really, the fundamentals matter with everybody, but it's the nuance of like when and how and what. When do we add this? When do we take it away? I mean, the number of people I've worked with over the years where subtracting things from their program led to greater success. I mean, that's probably 80% of people. Or adding in, like taking away certain exercise modalities and then adding other things in to replace things. But I love it because there's no person is exactly the same. Right. And so it's like a brand new experiment with every person I work with, which I love. I love it. Because it's like if I was doing the exact same thing, if I was like, like changing oil on the same car, like if I was working at a Toyota dealership and I was just changing oil and it was the same filter, it's another Corolla. Another Corolla. Nothing wrong with changing oil on the Corolla. But after you've done that 400,000 or 500,000 times, but with what I do, it's amazing because every person's a little bit different. Some people get it right away. Some people don't. Some people will work with me for a little while and they'll be like, I don't get it. And then they'll move on. And then, 6 months, a year later, they'll come back to me and they'll be like, I really get what you're trying to teach me now. I just wasn't ready. So it's really cool. I love what I do. I'm very, very lucky.
I'd love, and I can hear that loud and clear as you talk, Jim. One thing I'd love to get your take on is the role of a sort of personal happiness and satisfaction, and how that fits into our physical well-being. Because I don't know if the connection is always made right away, right?
Sure.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, so okay, I'm going to say a couple interesting things. One, happiness is not a destination. It's something you experience. So I think we've been sold this narrative by Disney that you're going to find happiness and you're always going to be there, which is it's complete BS. Like you are going to have times of great joy. You're going to have times of sadness. You're going to have times of despair. The sun rises, the sun goes down, there's dark, there's light. Just get used to it. Like that's just life. The process is what makes life enjoyable. The difficult times make the good times even better, and you need adversity to become better. Like nobody, very few people will say, "Well, everything was going so well, I just wanted to up my game." It's like no. Once human nature, things are going well, you tend to cut corners, you tend to get lazy. That's generally why you have a coach. So that's if you understand that life is difficult and it's, it says in Psalms, when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not if, it's when. So it's coming. Just be ready. And you got to understand that all these challenges are there to make you a better person and for you to help other people as well. Like when you go through, a lot of the hard times of my life have allowed me to touch and help more people.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Now, the second part of that is a social connection. There is the quantum world is like quantum biology. It's like light water magnetism, like getting outside, grounding, that sort of thing. There's this really strong notion of like the closer you get to the equator, all your health issues are going to go away. Like the more sun you get, the closer you get to the equator, everything's going to get better. Well, I live very close to the equator. And the social component is massive, massive.
Yeah.
You could live in the perfect environment. And there's some guys like that guy in Alaska. He lived in Alaska for, 20 years by himself, and he filmed himself. And he did amazing. He made friends with the animals and stuff. I can't do that. It's not me. Okay. So the fact I've moved to another country, I don't know anybody, I don't speak the language, I'm getting better. Incredibly stressful. So I'd say it's a net positive. there's a book called The Great Cholesterol Myth. I tell people, because a lot of the people who come to me were like, over 40, they're in chronic pain, the doctor's got them on a statin. And I would give them that book, and that would basically tell them, okay, here's the pluses and the minuses, whether you need to be on it or not. But one of the side effects of a statin drug is pain. And once people would come off the statin, their pain would pretty much go away.
Right.
Like 7 out of 10 times. In that book, they talk about this town in Pennsylvania. It's kind of a mining steel town, blue collar. Everybody smokes, everybody drinks. They all work in the mine. They all work in the steel mill. Horrible diet. Yet they don't have like bad health. Like they don't have like higher rates of heart disease or heart attack or anything like that compared to the average.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started researching, like, why is this place? Why are these people smoking? They're drinking, they're eating, all this crap food, and they don't have worse health outcomes than everyone else. Like, it's the same. And they found out it was the social connection. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody went to the bar together. Everybody, they had a massive community. And so that's a big part. I mean, you can do everything right. You could, if you're living like Grizzly Adams, like way out,
Sure.
no Wi-Fi, you're living in nature. If you're miserable and you don't have some sort of meaningful social connection, your health is probably going to suffer. So having social connection, having friends, having a purpose, having meaning is very, very important. And that's why, I include it in my 5 fundamental habits, because I've experienced this. I've done this out of high school. I'm from Canada originally. I moved to California. I didn't know anybody there, played college football. Then I moved to Virginia, didn't know anybody there. Then I went back and forth from Colorado, from Virginia. I knew one person. Then I moved to Arizona, was a strength coach at the University of Arizona for a while. Didn't know anybody.
Wow.
Then I moved to Lexington, Kentucky from the University of Arizona.
Let me guess, nobody.
And I knew one person.
Okay.
Right? And then after 20 years in Lexington, I moved to Florida and I knew one person. And then I moved in Florida from Destin to the Tampa area and I knew one person. And then I moved from Tampa to Nicaragua and I didn't know anybody. So I've done this over and over and over again. And let me tell you, social connection, community is a big, big, big deal.
Yeah.
And you think that this little toxic device, which is beautiful and horrible at the same time, is going to make up for social connection? A little bit, but it's not the same as the real thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the more that is realized. So I remember once someone asked me what the question was, Audley, what one thing are you unlearning, right? And it took about 2 seconds, Jim, because I remember clearly a point in my life where I was convinced I was a self-made man, that everything that I had done, everything I had achieved is I did on the strength of my efforts and nothing else. And that what I didn't realize at that time was that approach or mindset was discounting everything that was being poured into me knowingly or unknowingly, subconsciously or consciously. Sometimes even as simple as a word of encouragement. Hey, Jim, you're looking pretty good shape today. Well, thanks, right? Those things feed into, whether we realize it or not, they might be smaller, but they do support us in a manner that we can't do without those. Those connections really are huge. And so without question, I agree with you. And I think I think people get further ahead if they understood that better, that social connection piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there, I believe there's a purpose that, I think in our modern culture that's kind of, a lot of the secularization of things have basically made it so that this is it, get all you can while you're here kind of thing, because this is it. It's over after we're done. I think I think that's really hurt things, because people don't think about the long term, like, hey, like there might be somebody keeping score in the background,
Sure.
Just the fact that there might be somebody keeping score in the background keeps a lot of people from like doing dumb things. So I think that's a big part of it too, is that understanding that there's stuff beyond this life. I think that's why people that have a faith generally tend to do better than people that don't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then understanding that there is a interaction. What goes around comes around, more or less,
Totally.
for the most part. And generally, people get what they deserve in the end, more or less.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you, and again, more people saw that connection. I think to your point, some of their actions might change. So,
Yeah, sure.
for the better, for the better. So, Jim, this is certainly a great opportunity to dialogue with you, and I really appreciate the time that
No problem.
you spent with us today here. Last thing I wanted to ask about. So, one thing on this podcast that we really encourage when we talk about the audacious living, right? It's really about taking that first step. That
Mhm.
that without question is probably the number one factor for why people don't achieve success, because they don't believe they can and they don't
Sure.
take that step. Um,
Mhm.
to so that individual who's sort of standing at the edge or looking out, going, I don't know if I can. How do I do it? What would you tell them? What would your message to that individual be?
Well, I would tell them, probably the modern human, anyways, is like, let's just take 5 minutes a day and let's just sit in silence.
Mm.
Like, get rid of the phone, slow down, sit down. Maybe when you eat, let's really focus on chewing your food up and being present. Let's focus on being more present. Let's put the tongue in the roof of your mouth. Let's breathe through your nose. Focus on living moment to moment as opposed to living through your phone or running around with a chicken with your head cut off. I think if you live more in the moment, I think you're going to feel much better, and you're going to just be in a much, much, much better place than, constantly scrolling. And just put that thing down for a little bit. Get yourself some silence. I think there's incredible. I think silence is when our body kind of resets its hard drive and reboots things, and kind of, you might have to deal with some things underlying the surface that you maybe didn't anticipate, but it's well worth it. And I think silence is something our modern world has kind of destroyed. And I think it's something most people need to bring back into their life.
That makes sense. I mean, totally makes sense. And again, I like the deliberate, being really deliberate, slowing down, being present, and just not rushing, because that's, stop and smell the roses a bit. You get to see, and you're more present in life in general, right? And
I tell people, when, people are like, you want me to go for 3 10-minute walks? Like, how high do you want my heart rate? How fast do you want me to walk? I'm like, no, 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 no. I said, look, so that's great. No
I
problem.
think it's those overachievers again, right?
Yeah, that's what I get. I said, I want you to, like, when's the last time you actually heard the birds when you were walking? There's no birds around here. I was like, you live in Colorado, there's birds. You live in Florida, there's birds. Even in New York, there's birds. I want you to go for a walk, and I want you to listen for the birds. And they come back and they go, oh my gosh, there's so many birds. But I was walking so fast, and I was power walking, and I was talking on my phone the whole time. I never actually heard the birds. And you know what? It made me feel really good.
Right.
So I'm like, go to the park bench, sit there, and just listen. Listen to the sounds. Listen to the wind going through the leaves in the trees. When's the last time you've done that? A lot of people, years, decades since they've done something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would challenge people to do.
Awesome. Well, great insights, Jim. I really do appreciate that. For listeners that want to connect with you, maybe work with you directly,
Sure.
where can we send them?
I would go to my Instagram. It's GYMLAIRD, Jim Laird. My Jim was named Jim Laird. Play on words. Jim is JIM is my name. GYM is my Jim. Don't do that. It makes it very difficult to sell your gym. That's my Instagram. Of course, I'm on YouTube and all that stuff. But you can go to mainly Vitality Brotherhood. That's where I have. You can there's a link to book a coaching call, like a discovery call with me at the top. If you look at coaching, there'll be a link for the women's program there as well. But that's pretty much where you can reach me for just about everything. So.
Great. And we'll make sure that the show notes will have those contact details as well. Jim, I do appreciate this conversation. I love the fact that you've taken the time to share the manner that you have, and great outdoors in Nicaragua, not a bad life, I'd imagine. And congratulations on all that. And
thank you.
As a Toronto guy myself, I appreciate the journey that you've been on around the world. Congratulations on the great work, and keep it going, my friend.
Thank you. Well, tomorrow I'm actually doing a year in review since I've been here a year.
Sure.
The good, the bad, the indifferent. So it'll be fun. So you can go to YouTube for that, or it'll be on my Instagram as well.
Cool. Sounds good. Appreciate you, Jim.
Take care, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Back we are here on the podcast. So much thanks and appreciation goes out to Jim for being here. During our conversation, we discussed the 5 fundamental habits for health. That's talking about walking after meals, eating protein, drinking quality water, getting adequate sleep, and maintaining social connections. These simple yet powerful habits form the bedrock of a healthy lifestyle and are essential to anyone looking to embark on their wellness journey. What I personally loved about this interview was Jim's relatable approach and the way he emphasized that health doesn't need to be complicated or drastic. His down-to-earth advice and passion for helping others truly shine through, making it clear that anyone can take control of their health starting today. I encourage you to connect with Jim directly. His contact details are located in the show notes below, along with special offers of products he may have for you. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. I hope you found inspiration and practical tips to help you on your journey toward living your best audacious life. As we sign off from the beautiful Cayman Islands, I invite you to like, follow, or share this podcast to help us continue to grow and reach even more listeners like you. Remember, every small step counts, and you have the power to create the life you desire. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.